Okay, welcome back to the Digital Creators. Today I've got Jourdan Sungkar as my guest. Welcome, Jourdan.
Thank you, man. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Jourdan Sungkar, a versatile creative with over 12 years of experience across Perth, Melbourne and Sydney, combines a background in skateboarding and aerosol art with a degree in communication design, focusing on branding and advertising. Splitting his studies between Curtin University and Swinburne University, he graduated in 2015 and swiftly entered the industry. Accepted into esteemed awards school in 2016, Jourdan embarked on a career at major advertising agencies, contributing to campaigns for brands like Coles, Optus and World Vision. Alongside his agency work, he's published notable books including Infinitism magazine and Get the Met Melbourne Train System Design, showcasing his passion for design and urban culture. As the founder of Four Letter Press, he continues to explore niche topics with his publications stocked in top retailers and archived at the State Library of Victoria.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
So yeah, tell us where you sort of got started. Did you grow up in Perth or?
Yeah, well, I was born in Sydney and then we moved to Perth in the 90s. So when I was a kid in primary school. And yeah, grew up in Perth for most of my life. Yeah.
And you studied at Curtin and then you went over to Melbourne.
Yeah,
is it?
yeah. Did 2 years of Curtin, and yeah, I decided to move city, and finish the second half of the degree in Melbourne at Swinburne. Yeah, Swinburne University in Melbourne. Yeah.
Okay, and you, was there some sort of transfer or relationship between the unis, or you just transferred yourself, kind of?
Yeah. I just researched online, looked at the universities, and I noticed that you can transfer credits.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So if you're in a degree and you find a degree that's similar, they'll try to transfer all your study that you've done and transfer you into their program.
Mm-hmm.
So they had a special program at the time where if you're in second year of uni, I'm pretty sure it was second year. I know it was second or third year. They basically get you a job. They have heaps of
cool.
industry contacts at Swinburne University. It's called the Industry Placement Program. And that's why I decided to go with them. I was either going to go to RMIT, which was also reputable, but also Swinburne. And yeah, they basically send you to all these agencies that they have contacts with, and they get graduates that haven't even finished their degree a job, and that job contributes to your degree,
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah, so you're working and you're earning income as well. I mean, it's a low income, but it gets you inside the industry very quickly. And so I did that program.
I think that's a really good program.
Yeah.
I don't know if they have that in
Yeah, it's very
cool.
industry focused. In Melbourne, that's the thing. There's a difference between Perth and Melbourne in terms of the education and the industry, and helped me in a lot of ways.
What's the award school?
Yeah, the award school program. So there's an industry body called the Communications Council. They may have rebranded recently, but so the Communications Council, it's mainly an advertising, PR, research type of industry body, and they have this program called Award School. It's I think it stands for something like Australian Writers and Art Directors, and it's a 12-week course, and it's not about designing. So it takes you away from Adobe and Copic pencils for the most part, and it just focuses purely on creating concepts for various types of advertising. And it's challenging because you're just dealing with pencil sketches. It's back to the basics.
Wow.
It's about strong concepts.
Yeah.
And it starts the first week. I think you start on a print ad, so it's basic. It's just a concept, basic print poster concept, and then it takes you into TV commercials. How to concept a TV commercial with a story, or it has to tie into the brief, and I can go into what a brief is in a sec. And they do everything digital marketing. How do you create a creative idea for digital? And it's not just a pretty picture, it's something substantial, like a concept.
Yeah.
Something that can turn into, one of the weeks we do integrated. So an integrated idea is something that has to be campaigned into multiple touch points. And it's not simply just mocking up stuff. It takes a lot of work. It's a bit harder because design, you can sort of create stuff and you don't always have to have a rationale. I mean, you're supposed to, but
Yeah.
with the concepts, it has to meet all the criteria of the brief. Everything from the brand, so it has to be brand, tone of voice, has to be the selling proposition, has to be the insight, and that insight can come from the brief, or it can be supported by your human insight. So there's a bit of criteria with, does this idea fulfill the requirements of the brief? And the brief doesn't come from the creative, it comes from like accounts or strategy. So anyway, so I won't go into, I can go further into it, but so yeah, award school is this like 12-week course where you're basically forced to know how to create concepts for not just one type of media, but several types of media.
Yeah.
And it's tough. Like, you have to be accepted into it. You have to do an application, and hundreds and thousands of people apply, and if you're accepted in,
Wow.
you either try again next year or you get accepted and then you do the course. But yeah, like I was on the fence for like a couple years, not that long, maybe 2-3 years. I was sort of on the fence and just practicing in my spare time, and I sort of did an all-nighter one night, did my application, and yeah, I got in, and it was the best thing ever. It was probably one of the most fulfilling things I've ever done in my career.
Wow. Yeah, because I think even chatting to Ken, who was on the previous episode, we're talking about the concept of just spending the time to the importance of the concept, that core concept, because that it doesn't matter what you're creating, it's the core concept that's the important part.
Yeah.
It's like who's like the target audience, or what do you want to achieve.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter with like the evolution of technology and AI or whatever the medium. It's that concept is the important thing.
Yeah.
So
yeah, absolutely.
It's
Like,
cool to see that still happening with like sketches, even though I do like how unis stay up to date with technology, but don't you can't stray away too much from the concept.
No, yeah, it needs to be a balance. So the things that they teach you in award school, just the basic pencil drawing, that's the concept. That's just once you get that concept, there's so much stuff that has to happen after. Photography, or it might be. Sometimes I've heard creative directors acting out their storyboard in front of the client. Like, this has happened at Cleanser. There's a great executive creative director, Ant Keogh. He was the ECD at Clevenger in Melbourne. And yeah, some of his famous ads, he just had to act out his thing. So you have to pitch it, and it has to be accepted by the client, unless it's just a side project thing or something like that. But yeah, so much has to happen. You might need photography. You might need a 3D artist. You might need, like, sometimes even advertising is not even about billboards. Like, that was around for ages. Like, now people are making products. They're making events. They're making technology. Sometimes they're even changing government policy. They're introducing new words to the dictionary. This idea of advertising, of just radio ads, billboards, television, that was how it was for a long time. But then technology came, and then people started thinking, hey, we don't have to just make a TV commercial. We don't have to just make a billboard. Like, those are just the media. So people, it's all about the concept. The concept can fit anywhere, or it can fit anywhere. The whole thing is, technology is great, and we need that because that's how the world engages. But you need strong concepts. It's like with anything. But at the same time, like, I remember in my early days, like when I did my first magazine, sometimes I'd sit down with people and they'd go, tell me what your magazine is about in 30 seconds. And I kind of feel like it's very reductive. It's very, like, I'm not against things modern. I embrace technology. I'm all about technology. But sometimes when people, like, ask you to, you do an elevator pitch, sometimes it's important. You need to get your idea across quickly.
But
sometimes
the
it's
concept
reductive.
is so detailed that it would take
Yeah,
longer.
or sometimes, like, when I did my first magazine, like, yes, I spent weeks of planning and strategy and stuff, but when you look at it at the end of the day, I've got it here. It's just about art, photography, and design. That's all it is. There's stuff around it, but sometimes, sometimes, like, strategy and concept, it's important, but it has to follow through. You can't do, like, you can do months of planning, which I did, but it's the execution and the outcome of the project, whatever you're working on, that has to demonstrate all those things. And if it demonstrates all those things, that's why it's important to make, even myself when I'm designing book covers, I'm starting to, like, create checklists. Does this book cover cover these areas of criteria in my mind, or what I'm planning to do. And so, yeah, it's about that's also testing, and that's a part of the creative process, is testing your product, testing your concept. And I can go into that more about, you know, creative process. You know, I don't want to turn it into like a class or anything like that, but yeah, like there is a process to, you know, creative ideas. And
this magazine, can I check it out? Is it was
Yeah.
you did it at uni?
Yeah, I did it at uni, so you can have a look. You can show it. So it's Infinitism magazine. That's the logo there, and I worked with a friend who created that logo font, and I created the symbol. So we sort of divided the branding work. Yeah, and then on the back, you know, there's like graffiti, calligraphy, and like stickers. You can open that up and have a look.
Cool. Yeah, I like the packaging, very unique packaging, and I like how it feels really authentic.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
And, handmade, you know.
Yeah, it's handmade, you know, like.
And this is pretty cool. It's almost like is it
It's a
like
wax seal. It's a wax seal. Yeah,
it's an actual
wax seal. Yeah.
Wow, cool.
I'm not sure how much they cost nowadays, but back in 2012, it wasn't too expensive.
Did you
And I
just
had
do it
heaps
all
of wax.
yourself, or?
Did it all myself. I did all the wax by myself. I remember I sat down on a dining table with my parents,
cool.
and we just pumped out the stamps and the wax seals.
I can just feel the quality.
Yeah, no, definitely, man. It was
This is high quality print.
Yeah, exactly. You know, I forgot how many pages. It must be like 100 pages or something like that.
Yeah.
And yeah,
This is
so
it's just got that nice.
it's got a heavy feel. It's got a GSM behind it. It's not thin paper.
Yeah, so it's like
Yeah.
it's kind of, it's not like a book, like a hardcover book.
No.
But it's still something that is dense, and it's something you want to keep on your shelf.
Exactly. Yeah. I wanted to make it substantial. Everything I try to produce is, you know, like, especially when there's a budget and some creative freedom behind it. You know? And I can give the backstory around, you know, because that what you're holding right now was a product of, you could say, like maybe 2 years of exploration and research around how to make a magazine. And yeah, I can tell you the backstory. Yeah.
So this was collaborations. Oh,
Yeah.
James Winneray.
Yeah, there's photographers in there. So to lay it out clearly, it's Australian and international photographers, woodcrafters, poets, designers, all sorts of creatives molded into one book. There's a lot of Perth talent in there.
Yeah.
Like, this is a part of Perth history. Like, Graham Withy is in there. Grumster is a great aerosol and graffiti artist. Who like important people are in there, and also young people coming up. So it was all about established and emerging creatives. I wanted to strike that balance, you know. And a lot of these people are my friends, you know, people that I know. It was kind of like everything I could get my hands on that had a substantial quality, I was looking to put in this magazine, you know. Because there was a whole process of, I wanted to make another type of book, you know, with a different sort of audience. And because initially I can sort of tell you backstory. I'm pretty sure I left high school, didn't know what to do. I was into aerosol art, drawing, illustration, cartoons, calligraphy, you know, sign writing. That was a bit of my interest. But I wanted to make a book for the Muslim community. And I thought there was nothing wrong with that. There's a community, and I wanted to make a book for them. And I was a part of the Muslim community. And I sort of pursued that. I was trying to find all Muslim content. But what I realized was, I know so many people. I've been growing up in Perth for my whole teenage years, meeting all sorts of talented artists. I've been to Melbourne. I've met people over there when I first started traveling. And I was like, hey, I've got so much great content. That's what pretty much made the book. So there are Muslim artists in that, and I feel that that's important. So it's good to show Muslim talent and craft, because if you go to Muslim countries, like the mosques and the sort of like worship centers, like their architectural and calligraphy, their artworks, and so there's a lot of Islamic history with craft, and you know, there's a Muslim poet in there, there's a Muslim woodcrafter.
Cool, that's very cool.
Yeah, so basically, I was wanting to make a magazine.
Is it like Muslim, like Australian-based Muslim creators as well?
One of them's in the UK.
Oh, one of them in the UK?
Woodcrafter, Kashif Masood, he's in the UK, and I actually ordered one of his artworks. So part of my budget was to allocate a bit of money, a few $100s, to buy one of his artworks, and it was sent from the UK.
How did you fund this project?
So it was by a youth arts, I think Propel Arts.
Oh, yeah. Cool.
So they funded it. Oh, they funded half of it, and then I provided half of the funding through my own contributions. And yeah, that's how it was funded.
Cool.
And it was a joint project with somebody, but then they dropped off due to their commitments in life, and I pretty much had to do everything myself. I did everything from interviews, grading content, doing the pitching, the strategy, the quoting, the design layout, and the other big task was doing an exhibition. You know, I was 20 years old. I was really young, so I did this when I was 20.
Yeah, it's a lot of work.
I might have been 19. It was between when I was 19, 20 years old. And I had to curate my first show, which had Graham Withy and Drew Straker do mural art, and I had my friends playing music. They had sort of like indie rock music to play. And I did a gallery exhibition. I was catering. It was great. We had over 100 people. There must have been 100, 150 people. And it sold here. And like even some of the people that I looked up to were buying my book, like creative directors in Perth.
Oh, cool.
Were buying my book. And I've sat down with creative directors in Perth, and they're like, "Oh, I bought your book. I've seen your work." And that was early on. You know, early on in my career, I hadn't even graduated yet. So.
Yeah, I think projects like this are super important for like the creative community, like getting people out there and like collaborating on something. I know it can be hard. I find collaboration hard here in Perth, to be honest, or maybe. But yeah, coming together for one thing is like super important for community. And I think you got some like unique crafts that have come together, like the wood carving, and something that interests me is when you have someone with a different cultural heritage or background, coming to Australia, and like you get this cultural blend of creativity. So I think that's pretty interesting.
Blend's a good word, you know, definitely blending different types of media. And talking about like doing stuff, like when I was making this magazine or getting ready to make this, there was people that were looking at me like, oh, this is just another guy that wants to make a magazine that's not going to make a magazine, because everybody wants to make a magazine, everyone has an idea. But I was like, no, I'm actually going to make this. Like, I got the funding, I got my own funding, I designed it, did everything, you know, like created it from the beginning to the end. And there's a whole process in that, you know, that taught me a lot of skill early on. But those people that probably didn't believe in me. My lecturers didn't believe in me.
Yeah.
Like, people that I knew didn't believe in me. And it was only until I started advertising, like, look, the event's happening. They're like, oh, this is real, this is happening. And so there's a lot of people that won't believe in you. That's why it is important to have self-belief. And that sounds cliche, but if I just listen to people and go, oh yeah, I'm probably not going to make this, like, I'm just going to sit back, I would have never made it. Like, you just have to, you can't listen to people sometimes, like, or you can't be dependent on people's impression of your commitment to your work or to your craft to give you like validation, like, oh, so I can do this. No, you got to tell yourself, like, I can do this. Like, and I don't know, like sometimes that's inherent. Some people are born with confidence. Some people have to muster it up and get it. But it's important to be confident, because there's always going to be people that you're friends with them or they benefit you, they're your teachers, but sometimes they won't believe in you straight away. And it's only until you do something and put something on the table and make an event or make a product and demonstrate, look, it's happened. And once it releases, it's a proof for your abilities, and then people start believing you, then, you know.
Yeah, I think even, I don't know if it's creative culture here, but even definitely for me at uni, I just find like the lecturers, they just, you know, they're there for their job and that's sort of it. Like, and I mean, I kind of understand that, like maybe you have limited time, but I think there are really great lecturers and teachers that actually like want to know about your projects and actually want to support you. From the get-go. So I did find that I had that similar experience.
A similar experience, sometimes, you know, like, it's not to like you know, rank cities or anything like that, but Melbourne does have that atmosphere where when you're creating stuff, people are on board from the get-go. Like, people are, Perth, maybe because it's a small city, I don't know if there's more conservative values here, or people have think more conservative. Well. I don't know, but it's not to like, there's still people that will believe in you and stuff like that, but I don't know, maybe I don't know. It's just,
I have that experience. I had to find my circle. Like, you got to really find your circle in Perth a bit. And I think, there's a lot of factors come into it. I think it's just like Perth's quite new, and maybe we haven't found our footing as like Melbourne or Sydney, but you can still create stuff here. It's just maybe it's a bit harder to get lots of people on board. But
Yeah, well, it's not, yeah, because like if your project requires you to get people on board, like I don't know, people that want your customer base, you have to get them on board to sell your product and whatever. That's a given. But sometimes you don't need everybody to believe in you. Like it's not a criteria to do your project. You know, like you sort of have to go on your own and make something happen, because who cares if your lecturer doesn't believe in you? Who cares? Like, I mean, not to throw shade at my lecturers. A lot of them benefited me, and I respect them. But so who cares if there's like a handful of people out of everybody that doesn't believe in you? You can't let that stop you from creating. You know what I mean? If you're a creator, a photographer, or a designer, a graphic designer, or whoever you are, like making stuff, you can't be dependent on people for confidence. You have to you have to be confident in yourself.
Yeah.
And then once you've got that confidence, and everybody's scared. I mean, I'm a creative. I'm in my 30s. Like, maybe after you do stuff for a while, you get confident with it. But there's always that fear. You know what I mean? Like, this is my first podcast. I've never spoken on a podcast before. Do I know how it's going to go? I'm not sure. But there's always fear behind something you've never done before. But once you get over that hurdle, and you prove to yourself to make progress, then you're fine.
Yeah.
You don't always have to depend on people. I see that in some people. I've seen people, when the way that they present their ideas, they're already assuming people are going to say no. So it's like they're in fear of being rejected. And everyone has that fear, but when you have ideas, even if you don't think it's 100%, you have to be pitching with confidence, because if you're not confident, 100% confident, they won't be. You have to be confident.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's okay to feel nervous or fear and stuff, like normal human emotion, but you have to speak with conviction.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And the more conviction you have, hopefully that results in work being done. Like, these are, sort of abstract emotions or feelings or whatever. But if I listen to people that told me I couldn't do design, like people said, oh, you don't have a background design. Well, I went and studied and got a background, and then, well, you don't have work experience. I went out and spent 10 years of my life working in the industry, both privately and in the corporate world, and I got the experience, and there's more experience I need to get. So yeah, that's my whole thing, is that I've seen people and they present assuming they're going to be rejected, and there's always going to be rejection, especially as a creative. If you work in an advertising agency, you may create hundreds or thousands of ideas, and there might be 2 dozen or 3 dozen that are going to be accepted, and that's just the fact of that type of environment, which is more high volume idea production and a high level of rejection and a small amount of acceptance. But when you're creating stuff like on your own project, like, you're the only person that needs to approve it. And obviously your customer base, only your customer base, like the people, the public need to approve of it. And you just picked up my magazine, you thought it was great. So that's an indication, like, and yeah, there were some things I didn't do perfectly in the book, but you just got to make sure you cover most of the bases, if not everything. And it's hard to cover everything.
And I think it kind of sets the ground, like it taught you a lot for your next project. Just like my photo book or something was kind of more of an experiment, and then it's going to set the ground for the next one.
Absolutely.
I just had an idea from what you were saying. It's sort of been on my mind just as a side topic, but with your sort of experience working at agencies, and like we were talking about how, there's a lot of rejection for like the top agencies or whatever.
Yeah.
Do you think there is, with the just
throwing
idea
out
they
there,
have, do you think that there's enough agencies for the amount of graphic design students graduating?
Like supply and demand.
In Perth. I personally don't think, I think there might not be enough agencies for work to go around, and two, I think sometimes we idolize agencies more than a corporate job, where a corporate job could actually be a better outcome.
Oh, so many people from agencies move to in-house. Like this, this whole idea of the big agencies, like, I won't mention names, but there's the big agencies that everybody wants to work at.
They're fun, they're creative, and all
that.
that.
But so, like in Melbourne, there was a whole wave, like a whole massive transit. I wouldn't say everybody, but there was a decent percentage of the advertising community that said, hey, I mean, it's not just throw shade on agencies. I still love agencies. I want to go into them further. I've spent time in them. But a lot of people move to in-house, you know, because there are benefits to being in-house. There's sometimes more flexibility. Sometimes the pay can be better, or definitely a lot. Sometimes it can be a lot better. It's not to throw shade at agencies. Agencies have their purpose, and I respect them. They do groundbreaking work. You know, that's the background I came from. But yeah, like in terms of demand, is that what you're asking? Like,
Yeah, like I just feel like so many graduates, and then there's actually
few companies,
quite few agencies in Perth because we're quite small.
Yeah.
So, and then we set this expectation
criteria,
for students, like, hey, you want to join an agency, and then maybe the unis are like, oh, let's have them intern at these agencies, experience agencies. Like, agencies is the outcome you want.
Yeah.
Whereas I think that's almost a false expectation, because there's limited agencies. Possibly you even get paid less at an agency than a corporate graphic design job. So
absolutely, yeah. And I mean, I can say personally, half of my career I've spent in-house. I worked in 2, 3, 4 agencies and studios, but I did a lot of in-house work because that's where a lot of the work is. A lot of corporate brands will try save money, or like maybe they just want that control of having an in-house team of creative professionals, where it's photographers, graphic designers, a media team or a marketing team or a design team, instead of always outsourcing to agencies, because that's what they eventually do. They still do that. They get in-house teams, and a lot of work is in-house, and so much so that, like, if you just look at Deloitte's team in Melbourne is comprised of multiple, not everybody, but there's a bunch that came from even just one agency, like, or they poach, you know. So initially a graduate is like, I want to work at the top, the best studios or the best agencies, and there's nothing wrong with that, and that can bring a whole trajectory for people. But yeah, the whole demand, like, even, I don't know, it's like, some people would tell me, or lecturers, like, oh, you know, there's just too many grads and not enough jobs. But then but this leads to advice that I was given very early on when I was still studying, you know, as an undergraduate, was that you have to be doing stuff outside of work, creative projects, whether it's your own brand, your own products, your own artworks, your own gallery productions, to help. You know, my friend said you have to have that extra stuff on the outside of your job, or the stuff that you make yourself, to make up for those few months that you might be out of work because you're in between contracts. I've had heaps of that experience. In between contracts, I have to start printing t-shirts. I need to start designing t-shirts. I need to do merch. I need to make a website for my new product line. I need to, like in COVID, that's when I did the Get the Met book, and we can get into that in a bit. But like the whole thing, like, this is like, it's not maybe obvious to people, but not everybody does it. But you need to be creating stuff yourself, not dependent on a company to give you a brief or a contract or a position, because there's always going to be like times where you're out of work. So, you know, even some of the most senior people, from the juniors, which I've gone through that stage, up to senior level, which I am now, all the way up to creative management, like executive creative directors. Some of them spend 10 years at an agency and then they decide to go out on their own. Like, you need to be able to try, and sometimes, like, it takes practice, because I think now I'm sort of finding the fruits of my labor, because, you know, it took a long time, like a lot of small stints of doing stuff yourself, to get to the point where you're like confident doing stuff on your own, because some people just stick to a desk job and that's all they're used to. And if you put them in a room by themselves, they don't know how to create stuff. So it's a blessing and a curse. Like, you ideally want consistent, stable work, but there's always going to be gaps between employment. You know, not always, but some people try very hard to not have any gaps, and the longest they have a gap between a job is like 1 or 2 weeks, and they think that's like a lifetime. You know, I've spent like months between work where I'm creating a new brand, I'm publishing books, I'm doing signage projects, you know, hand brush lettering. I'm doing all sorts of stuff to keep myself busy, to have an income, to gain new skill, and to get myself a portfolio to keep developing. But yeah, you're right. There's this whole supply demand thing. But like, yeah, what I'm trying to lead to is, yes, there are only so many design roles. There are only so many positions and companies. But if you want to go to Malaysia, if you want to go to the US, you can go to New York. You can go all around the world and you can try to get a job overseas. It's not always easy. I'm not encouraging it for everybody, but the world is big and you're able to go anywhere. And if you're able to get a skill set where people are willing to let you work remotely, completely remotely, you can work remotely. The world is big, but what's also bigger is like the economy is big. So if you just open yourself up to, okay,
More
there's
options,
the job market, but then there's this whole big other thing called the global economy,
exactly.
or the local economy, or the micro economy.
Yeah.
So there's so many things you can do. It's just, if you just live in that world
it's like yes, there are limited jobs, but it doesn't mean like we're not limited to one specific city we can travel. There's planes.
Yeah.
We can go international as well. So there are more options. That's true. So I think I was a little bit wary of universities or graphic design institutions glamorizing agencies. But I think as long as there's an approach where it's like this isn't only for local agencies, like diversify your portfolio and set your sights nationally and globally, then there will be enough work around. And also I agree to keep working on your own projects, because then you're understanding what you're passionate about. Yeah,
I guess that's an important factor as well. What are you interested in? Because like sometimes you're just taking work to get by. You need to make an income. You need to survive. You need to pay your rent. You need to pay for your expenses. You need to pay for everything. Or if you're independent and you don't have a slush fund or whatever, you need to be independent. You need to take sometimes the work that's on the table. But most people, even people I know that have just wanted to survive over most of their career, are now finding, look, I'm sort of having to think, what type of work do I want to do? And I knew that early on. I knew that you have to sort of, like sometimes like you either have to have luck that you've worked in like a few different areas or a focus. But like sometimes you just have to figure out, what do I want to be known for, and what type of work do I want to create? Because sometimes you're just taking what's on the table. Yeah. But
it's important to find
sometimes
your style
the style that takes time, and what do you want to make? Do you want to make automotive TV commercials? Do you want to create products like what I'm doing now? Do you want to just create concepts and then get the seniors to make it, or the creative directors to lead stuff? Yeah, it helps. You don't have to do it, but it definitely. I see people in my own circle that haven't thought about what they want to specialize in, or what type of work they want to focus on, and now they're forced to tackle that problem. What type of work do I want to do? Where do I want to work? What type of contract do I want to have? And absolutely, I can talk about my own career, but it helps to maybe sit down and go, what are the different types of work out there?
Do magazines still make money? Like obviously there are big magazines out there, huge. But I think more and more with the rise in technology and whatever, brands overlook magazines as like the medium. It's a lot more digital. I personally I don't think print is dead, because print almost acts as this core concept that brands can develop from. But maybe as a young designer, like it'd be pretty hard to make a magazine that is maybe successful and turns into something. It's like very difficult. You're up against a lot. You are, there's a lot of commercial factors. I had people telling me when I made my magazine, you should maybe do an app that's more up to date with technology. You can do an app, but you need engagement, and engagement is what drives your digital platform. If you're able to work it out, then do that. It's just, for me, like a printed, like something tangible doesn't go away. When I made my magazine, when I made my other book, Get the Met, which I can bring out, this is the other Get the Met book. I can talk about that in a second. But everything that I've made, or these two books that I've made, amongst a few other books that I'm about to publish, I'm putting in the work that's equating to something people are going to hold on to and not dispose of. Yes, exactly. It's like so much stuff out there. Everything you talk about, environmental stuff. So much stuff is disposable. And do you want to be a designer who's making stuff that's being disposed of? No. Like you want stuff that people are going to hold on and cherish. Exactly. And they're going to remember. And some people still talk about that magazine, Infinitism magazine, that I did like how many years ago? Like 12 years ago. And they still talk about it. You know what I mean? So
it has to be memorable. Well, it should be memorable. That's the goal, because that's the baseline, and then everything's up from there. You know, there has to be a production quality. Because the issue that I have, like I saw when I was in uni, people would make a magazine and the production quality is not premium.
Yes.
And then they print 6,000 copies and they don't have confidence that they're going to distribute that many.
Yes.
And then they're stuck with hundreds or thousands of books. So I was making it going, okay, if I'm just doing 200 copies, I'm confident I'm going to sell most of them.
Yeah.
A few for promotion. I went to job interviews. I wanted to impress the guy interviewing me. I'd give him a copy of my magazine, say, hey, I'm 20, 21 years old. Here's my magazine. So you have to be aiming for value. And then that ties into product attributes and product quality, you know. And where there's quality, there's a price, you know. And when there's less quality, you budge. People are not willing to pay for below premium, pay a premium price for something that's not premium.
Yeah,
you know
exactly.
what I mean? So, and that's the whole thing. So, yeah.
So we're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to get back and discover all about Get the Met.
Yeah.
So yeah.